دين الإسلام ديني والعرض غير ديني محمد.
And now it's time for the day's motivational speaker.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajmain. Wa ba'd. My brothers and sisters, think agriculture. Think about how do you plant a seed. What do you do if you want the best seed to grow and flourish and produce a beautiful crop? The number one thing you need to do is to prepare the soil, prepare the land. Clean the soil, remove all the stones and the thorns and all the negative things in the soil before you plant the seed. I want you to think about this, a three-step process in order for us to learn and in order for us to develop our lives. Number one is the cleaning of the soil. Number two is the planting of the seed. And number three is the watering of that seed. This cleaning of the soil is what we know and understand as tazkiyatul nafs. Do remember, the term used is not tazkiyatul aql, it is tazkiyatul nafs, the purification of the self, the purification of the heart. What is purification of the heart? To clean our heart from all negative emotions, to clean our heart from anger, from hatred, from envy, from jealousy, from greed, to clean our heart from all of these. Because the reason is that these emotions, when they are there, they lead us to doing actions which are haram. Now, unless we clean the heart of all of these emotions, and I'm not giving you an exhaustive list, there are many more, but we need to reflect within ourselves and say, what is my personal problem? Everyone does not have the same problem. For some people, envy is not the issue. For them, greed is the issue. For some other people, anger is not the issue. For them, it is something else which is the issue. We need to look into our hearts and clean those hearts, because only then will the best seed in the world, which is the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the sunnah of His Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, only then can that seed be planted, and only then will that seed germinate. And then when we have planted that seed, we need to stand in the night and water that seed, which is the tears of the eyes, when we stand before our Rabb and we ask Him to help us in doing this work, which will inshallah make us among the best people in the world and spread this beautiful deen of ours to the whole world. Tell me, how difficult is it to give somebody as a gift a 7 Series BMW? How difficult is it to give somebody as a gift? If people will love it, if you give it for free, then why is it difficult for us to present Islam? Or why do we feel it's difficult for us to present Islam to the world? Because what is more beautiful than a religion which makes you a winner in this world and the next? The key is we have forgotten how to present this, and the beginning of that is to prepare ourselves in order to present that. And that is what I mean by tazkiyatun nafs. Wa sallallahu ala nabil kareem wa alihi wa sahbihi ajmain bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin.
And now it's time for the day's sporting events, brought to us courtesy of Professor Solly Said.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Solly Said's Karate, Kickboxing and Gym, where we have a multi-discipline center which teaches all different forms of art, martial arts, physical fitness, just general well-being, all kinds of health, people's health requirements. We cover all these different areas. Stand up, senseis. I have today Sensei Andy again and Sensei Zinat, who will be assisting me. Today's topic and today's program is going to be more designed to talk a little bit about Karate Do. Karate Do means the way of karate. And I'd like to dispel certain myths, or quite a few myths that surround this art of karate, which is very popular in Japan and the East. And actually, karate has become the second most popular sport in the world. And most people don't know this. FIFA, which is the soccer federation, we know has about 200 countries under its wing. Karate has 186 countries under its wing, which makes it the second most popular sport in the world, as far as a participation sport is concerned. And what's important is to understand that karate is not just for physically strong people. Actually, the opposite applies more for karate, because it's really incredible what it does for people in terms of their health. Children, boys and girls can participate in karate. Men and women can participate in karate. I have students that are 70 years old, men and women that actually still do karate at the age of 68, 69, 70. And hopefully, as they go into their 70s, they'll continue doing karate. So it's not an art only for the strong and only for the healthy and only for the athletic type. It's for anybody and everybody. We have a saying, as you saw the procedure in the beginning, we sat down quietly, silence the mind. It says it's in the game instruction, mokso. Mokso means to silence the mind, to calm down. And this way, prepare yourself for what's to come. Karate can be a very vigorous form of training, and it needs your focus, your attention every second of the time, because you're learning very, very sharp, very dangerous techniques, and these techniques cannot just be, you can't play around with them. You can't think that these are techniques that you can mess around with. Children, for example, we don't teach them certain techniques that are very dangerous. Karate is made up of many, 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 many dangerous techniques. All the attacks are done to nerve centers, to break joints, to attack the solar plexus, the throat, and so forth. So this art has to be taken seriously, but at the same time, it's a very joyful experience. The health benefits, the confidence that you gain from karate is second to none. Now, once more, the beginning part. We have a lovely saying in karate which says, karate rei di hajimare, rei di awaru, which means karate begins with courtesy and ends with courtesy. So throughout your practice of karate, it's all about courtesy. There's another wonderful samurai saying. Samurais are the warriors of Japan, where we say you can recognize a tiger by its stripes, a crane, flying bird, by its plumage, and a samurai, a warrior, by his courtesy. So courtesy is vital. It's the adab we talk about in Islam. The courtesy is very, very important in karate. Without courtesy, one could actually become a very dangerous, lethal and dangerous person to yourself and to the public. So courtesy is very important in karate. Now, some of the procedure of training in karate is we generally would do the meditation, get our mind ready for the program. Then we warm up, and then we would stretch, and then we'll go on to some of our techniques. Now, for example, the structure of karate is incredibly deep. Okay, it covers every fiber, every muscle of the body. It's one of the finest form of physical culture you can ever get involved in. The coordination required in karate is second to virtually none. No other sport can demands in you the coordination that karate will demand in you, right? But of course, anyone can practice karate because it's a experiential art. We can talk about karate till the cows come home, but we're not going to get anywhere with that. We need to actually experience karate. And given that it's a practical art, I've had the privilege of teaching a man that had no legs on a wheelchair. We've had programs that we taught mentally challenged people, blind people, people that couldn't hear, deaf people. So the program itself, karate can be taught to anybody, because a blind person, by moving and helping them move their hands and their legs in a certain way, showing them how to do the technique, they should be able to do that. a deaf person, by watching you move your hands, there's no need to even talk. Most karate classes, in fact, our karate classes being that we are a traditional school and an old school system, we do not allow talking in the class. We just give instructions and then the actions take place. Now let's talk a little bit about the background of karate. Karate, as we know it today, actually originated in India. Now this will blow your mind because you think to yourself, how does India connect with karate? Well, in South India, a place called Kerala is where they practice an art called Kalaripayat. Kalaripayat goes back a few thousand years. Actually, the Buddhist monk, who's generally known as the founder of the martial arts, as we know it today, Kung Fu and then eventually karate, was a man called Bodhidharma. He was known as the warrior monk called Bodhidharma. He traveled across from South India over the Himalayas and went into China because he heard that the Chinese were very, very developed spiritually in Buddhism. And he wanted to actually see them and work with them. He was a highly ranked, he was a 28th successor to Buddha. And he wanted to meet these Chinese people. And of course, through the trip, going across the very treacherous mountains and valleys and rivers and dams and oceans, to get to China, he had an entourage of people who eventually disappeared. Many of them disappeared. And he had to fight his way against highwaymen, animals, all kinds of attacks that they would have to face. And given that he studied, or probably must have been involved in the village art called Kalaripayat, he could defend himself. And he taught his young entourage of people that were with him how to fight and how to. They also studied the movements of animals. They studied the movements of snakes, different reptiles. And a lot of those movements were brought into the martial arts. Eventually, this art, when Bodhidharma got to China, he found the Chinese to be very deeply spiritual, but they were very physically weak because there was no physical activity involved. And what he did was he introduced to the Chinese monks the form of fighting which eventually became known as the Shaolin fighting arts. And these temples that he went and he taught in became known as the Shaolin temples, as we know today. And it is from the Shaolin temples that we hear through the history that we are given, that karate eventually was the birth of karate came about. Right. Karate originated. The word karate came from Okinawa, where it was known as te, or ti, or just the hand fighting techniques of Okinawa. Some Okinawan fighters actually traveled to China to learn how to do the Chinese fighting arts, Kung Fu fighting arts. And they came back to Okinawa, where they created this art of karate do, as we know it. And from Okinawa, karate spread into Japan, and from Japan to the Western world and around the world. And as we know today, it is very, very popular as a sport, as a martial art, and hopefully at some time in the future, it's going to be an Olympic sport as well. The karate is made up of basics, kata, and kumite. Kata is the forms of karate, and kumite is the fighting art, a fighting part of karate. We will try to run through some of the basic movements that you at home could practice yourself, and hopefully the interest will develop where you would want to learn more about this noble art of karate do. Thank you.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed a thing or two from the sporting events that are brought to us here every morning by Professor Solly Said. And it's now time for the news, read to you by ITV's Nafisa Dango.